Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and today we are back with episode 4 of our Game of Thrones reaction series. So, of course, as usual, I am joined by Tyler Calvert and Alyssa from Mainely Movies as we continue down the rabbit hole that is Game of Thrones, reacting to every episode in the series. And I think I finally have decided on a day and title. So it's Throne Thursdays here on LC Screen Talk. So every Thursday, be expecting the reactions. I know it only took us, a couple weeks, but hopefully you've noticed they've been dropping on Thursdays anyway. But in addition, before we get in, I did revamp my background here. Thank you to Hot Topic
Yeah.
Hot Cash for making this banner happen. And then my little photo ops with Gwendolyn Christie, Jason Momoa, and then Kit Harington, and then me and Tyler with Kit Harington.
Before I even watched the show.
Clearly, I mean, it's a lot of Targaryen going on up here, but I will say, as a disclaimer, this was the only flag Hot Topic had. So I was looking for flags. I thought about maybe doing several behind me. They only had Targaryen flags. So that's what we got. So, exciting news.
I did not revamp my background. I still have a curtain and a wall.
Also, I'm a little bit closer to the camera, but I'm rocking another Game of Thrones shirt. So just so you know. Getting into the recap from episode 3. We arrived in King's Landing, got our first view of the capital, and in turn also got our first experience with quite a few characters, including Littlefinger, who has a storied past with Catelyn Stark, as well as Varys and all of his little spy birds. And then also in the capital, Catelyn made it down to King's Landing, spoke to Ned, got that time with him to let him know, hey, somebody tried to murder our son, and I think it was a Lannister. In the process, Littlefinger also revealed that he would help Lord Eddard Stark in the capital as well as he could. And we heard some more stories from Robert Baratheon of his brutal conquest. But in the process, also learned he's pretty much surrounded by Lannisters. Lannisters work for him. Lannisters obviously are on his wife's side of the family. So he is like a lone Baratheon with his children amongst a sea of Lannisters. We also saw he and Jaime don't really get along, but last episode it didn't seem like Jaime got along with anyone. So there you go.
Very true. Very true.
Cersei and Joffrey also made it pretty clear that they view the Starks as their enemies, though Cersei kind of was like, yo, everyone's our enemy except for us. So that kind of gives us a view at that mindset. Arya got a dance instructor and began her training. And then Daenerys was revealed to be pregnant, and that was a big revelation there. So lots of setting up moments of episode 3, and now we shall see how they start to pan out and maybe pay off here in episode 4, which is titled Cripples, Bastards, and the Broken Things. And a fun little thing, they have a sticker that has the quote on it for the episode for my little notebook. So let's go ahead and jump in to episode 4.
Slowly, I'm enjoying this theme song more and more.
Also, I don't know if you had realized that the Baratheon house animal is rock.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's kind of cool, I guess.
Sorry, that's why when they come down on King's Landing, you see that stag up there. So obviously, Targaryens are dragons, Starks are wolves, or dire wolves in particular.
Oh, he's up and shooting arrows, so he's not crippled.
Okay, good. I thought I was playing the wrong episode again. I was like, wait, I thought he was in bed still.
Oh.
The little lord's been
back in bed.
dreaming again.
Was it a dream then?
Dreaming of three-eyed birds.
Yeah, that's a bit odd. You don't really see
We
too
have
many of
visitors.
those.
Don't want to see anyone.
Hello, Bran.
Why you just carried him in like that?
Do you remember anything?
I'm not a cripple.
Then I'm not a dwarf. My father will rejoice to hear it. I have a gift for you.
So mean.
Give that to your saddler. He'll
Aaron
provide the
just
rest.
tells it like it is.
I have a tender spot in my heart for cripples, bastards, and broken things.
Oh, I
Oh,
know.
he said
You
it.
did my brother
He said the
kindness.
thing. Well, he's not very good at being a warrior if he
On your
gets
feet.
beaten down
Pick up
like
your
that.
sword.
I'm a coward.
I wonder what he did to get sent to the wall. So we're back
Hey,
to
that
these folks.
statue's in the opening.
Finally entering here.
Jason Momoa leading the way.
Because they're my people. This is my army. Khal Drogo's marching
I
Yeah,
see,
I
uh,
still hate
my
Viserys.
army.
He's back
How's
in
that-
form.
I was about to say, I guess he's back.
The Dothraki have never crossed the narrow sea. They fear any water their horses can't drink.
But if they did,
King
So
Robert was
they
fool enough
fear
to
the
meet
water,
them in
eh?
open battle. But the men
Only the
advising him
saltwater.
are different.
what happened to the dragons?
In this
I was
like
told the
intimate
brave men
moment with
killed them.
Viserys for some reason.
I would rather see.
Really?
I really don't trust
Why
him with that
dragons?
candle right now.
They can fly.
It's making you
and wherever
anxious.
they are, just
Vermithrax.
The scene is going on for like a very long time.
Alchemy.
it's very sad.
Yes, it is. What did I buy you for? To make me sad?
No, Your Grace. To
Oh,
teach your sister.
And everyone would hate me.
Nobody could ever hate you.
Well, if she only
Joffrey
has
does.
girls, it's technically Joffrey's
Why
fault.
would you say such a thing?
I assure you, the hand wants no
or
parts of it.
Ned. Ned looks like he's
Call
just
it what you will, Lord
going
Stark.
through it right now.
The city is packed with people.
The seed is strong, I think it was. Last words are usually as significant as first words.
And you're quite certain he died of a natural illness?
Well, what else could it be?
Poison.
Disturbing thought. No,
To be honest,
I
though,
don't
does like
really
anybody
it.
in this like
The hand was
Game
not
of Thrones
at
die
all.
naturally?
What sort of man would dare?
I've heard it.
I don't think I've seen a I don't think I've seen anybody die naturally
Yes.
so far.
Women?
No. That's not me.
Yeah, you tell him, Arya. Arya's just like, that life is not for me. No thanks.
I'll pass. Thanks, though.
I should warn you. I don't see all that well.
John looks like so done with life.
Come stand by the fire. Somewhere in these woods, your horse will stumble, and you'll be thrown from your saddle to die.
Jeez,
Also, I'll tell
it's
you
pretty
mother,
dark.
Nothing would please me more.
This guy's like Neville Longbottom.
I hear you're reading a book.
And all of your Harry Potter references, Alyssa.
Oh, it's like the only fantasy I can like.
Oh, it never stops. One of Varys' little birds. The spider has taken a great
Oh,
interest
so the
in
little
your cows and
birds are
girls. Now
children.
look there.
Baelish, perhaps I was wrong to distrust you.
Distrusting me was the wisest thing you've done since you climbed off your horse.
I still don't trust him. There's just something about him that I just do not trust.
So
The
here,
be
tournament
like-
they were speaking
Say
of.
I'm busy.
I'm here on behalf of
gonna be like a
Lord
Knight's
Eddard
Tale.
Stark, the Hand of the King.
Your mother?
Who she was, what she looked like.
So clearly, this
What did
kid
you
is
sell him?
that Aaron guy's son.
She died when I was little.
Perhaps.
She had yellow hair. She'd sing to me sometimes.
He's probably the bastard of the title
Look at me.
of this episode.
Where have you been?
It is
What's
kind of
duty?
nice that you
His
can
son.
tell where they are just based on how the scenes are lit.
You are in love, Lord Snow.
You're in love.
Hey, finally.
No one touches Sam.
Yeah.
Oh.
nice to see the direwolf show up though.
Scene 2 that we hadn't really seen, even though
What are you
Bob's was
waiting
kind of
for?
just chilling.
I yield.
Uh-oh. Sir Alistair is not pleased.
He oversold that one. I watch WWE. I know an oversell when I see one.
You're not there.
You would turn me into one of them, wouldn't you? Next, I want to braid
Someone
my
needs to
hair.
take him out.
No right to a
I have a
braid.
feeling
You've won no
Aquaman's
victories
gonna
yet.
like walk in soon and
Not
throw him out of the
back to me.
little straw hut here.
You are a horse lord slut, and now you've woken the dragon.
To me. Will be the last
That
time you
face he's
have
making.
hands.
But good for her. Good for Daenerys finally standing up for herself.
Silly, isn't it?
I guess it's nice that John found himself a friend up there.
His supposed girlfriend.
Upset about it.
Yeah, do we ship them? Do we ship
But I like
John
girls
and
just as much as
Sam
you do.
Harley?
They might not like me as much.
I guess nope. They're straight.
Didn't know where to put it. I know where to put it. Was she old and ugly? Young and gorgeous?
What a lovely conversation we're having between these
A
two.
whore named Ros. Soft, fat boys like you. We'd have lasted a fortnight on you and still had
Everybody's
bones left
picking
over
on
for
Sam.
soup.
I don't like it.
Come the winter, you will die. Like flies.
Good
Fun.
pep talk.
Yeah, I was gonna say, fun pep talk, right?
I guess Sansa and him are not getting along right now.
Been sitting here for days! Start the damn joust before I piss this out.
He is just like beyond gone.
I feel like the degree of facial protection between the two of them is a little uneven here.
I also think
Like,
that
I don't think the squire is gonna have a good time here.
that too, but I think that mountain guy also is much larger than him. There it is. Oh. Well,
He needed more facial protection.
And just as fast as we meet Sir Hugh, we say goodbye.
Shoved his face into the burning coals.
so that's why he looks like that.
While the boy screamed.
Yes.
While
That's
his
rude.
face melted.
The mountain's an asshole.
I'm afraid all the knights in King's Landing would not be able to save you.
Why would you tell her that story then? You see, I don't like him. I'm gonna tell you this story. That
I
could
like him more than I like
harm
her,
you.
so I hope she tells the story and the Hound just takes care of her.
As was I.
Cersei just being that woman again, I guess.
You can sleep in the stable. As for myself, I don't require.
I can see your father's victory at King's Landing.
Nothing would more likely ruin my supper. Lady Stark. What an unexpected pleasure. I was sorry
She could have
to
done a
miss
bit
you
better
at
of a job to
Winterfell.
hide herself.
This man came into my house as a guest, and there conspired to murder my son, a boy of 10. I call upon you to seize him and help me return him to Winterfell to await the king's justice.
I mean, he's a tiny man. I think he will. I think you can. I think you can manage with a few less swords. I can't imagine it being that difficult to take him away. What a way to end the episode, though.
Yes, were you expecting that from Catelyn's long scene of the episode?
She meant business.
Her to take Tyrion into custody. All right, so how are you feeling about episode 4, Tyler?
I thought it was a decent episode overall. I mean, it wasn't like my favorite or anything so far this season, but I mean, it had enough decent world building that I feel like we're getting to a better storyline down the road as the plot develops. We're getting more of the Ned Stark development of him being kind of like a Sherlock Holmes type and getting them getting down to the mystery, and obviously Catelyn is getting down to her stuff as well, as we just saw at the end of the episode, taking away Tyrion. And we're seeing Daenerys develop more as a character, which is nice to see her finally like stand up for herself. And John made a friend, so yay, John! John made a friend with Sam Tarly, I believe that was his name. So that was also nice to see.
All right, and Alyssa?
Yeah, I agree. It was an okay episode. I didn't love it or anything, but I did like it a little bit more than last episode. That one was a little dull, plus it spent too much time on the wall. This one at least had some slightly more interesting things and entertaining things happening up at the wall. Like Tyler was saying, it's kind of just adding to some of the background and kind of setting up for a lot of other things. So I think some of the things that occur here are going to see some payoff sooner rather than later in some of these instances. But I thought it was okay overall.
Yeah, this episode had a lot of backstory, a lot of history lessons, I'd say.
I would say, yeah, I would agree.
We had Viserys Targaryen giving a history lesson about House Targaryen and dragons, where we learned that Iron Throne was forged by the Targaryen dragons, and it was their heat that binded the swords of their fallen enemies together to make the Iron Throne.
It does sound cool when you think about it.
So, yes, so it was the Targaryens who kind of like flew over and conquered King's Landing. And they did it with 3 dragons and 3 Targaryens to do it, including some of those that he listed off as the skulls that he saw when he was younger, down to the fact that the late dragons were no bigger than dogs, was his description of the final dragons to live. So
that's not very large.
I guess
it's like
pretty small dragons at the end. We also got a little bit of backstory about Robert's war, basically, and the Greyjoys. We heard their name come up actually a couple times at the beginning when Tyrion was basically insulting. His name is Theon Greyjoy up in Winterfell, telling him about how his father would just not be proud of him because he had become so obedient to his captors. He now lives with the Stark family. And then that exchange between Edsman and Jaime as they discussed their battle that they had previously fought side by side, that Jaime just did not remember who this guy was.
Yeah, who are you? I don't know you at all.
Then we also, as you said, got to Ned's investigation with Jon Arryn as he started poking around to further investigate what actually killed Jon Arryn. And, clearly they're still going by this story of sickness, but according to Lysa, Catelyn's sister, he was poisoned by the Lannisters. So he's poking around, seeing what was Jon Arryn doing, what was happening leading up to his death. But Sir Hugh there died before Ned even got to speak to him. So they found him and he died.
Shame.
But we learned a little bit about that backstory, and then finally, the last history we learned was of the Hound and his older brother, the Mountain, Rhaegar Clegane, who is into the fire at 6 years old.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Looking like he does now. So lots and lots of myth and lore going on. We learned a little bit about Jorah with Daenerys as he kind of talked about his wife, and we learned he sold slaves before, which Dany seemed a little bit like, oh, okay, well, why'd you do that? So how did you all feel about Daenerys' plotline in this episode? So she obviously stood up to her brother, for pretty much the first time, really. She kind of did before when she had them, like, or she didn't really have them, but when they, like, roped him up and pulled him off of her. But this time it was definitely more severe, as Viserys legit just, like, attacked her and took her to the ground, grabbed that thing and smacked him upside the head with it, and threatened him that if he touches her again, then he will no longer have hands, and she'll make sure of it. So, Alyssa, how did you feel about Daenerys and everything happening with the Dothraki?
I think this was probably her strongest episode in terms of just her own abilities and her own, I guess, self-confidence. I don't know if it was my favorite of her episodes. I don't know. I kind of like the first episode more a little bit in terms of her, but I did like that she was finally standing up to Viserys, because he's at, like we said in the reaction, he's top form, like, asshole again. And so
Literally.
I was happy to see him get smacked in the face with the little coin belt or whatever she had.
When you think too, we have that long moment. He's having a semi-decent conversation with this woman, and then of course
Tyler's favorite scene. It wasn't long enough for him.
Has to, like, come back
Too
at
long.
you and remind you that he is absolutely just a horrible human being.
But it was good
Yeah.
seeing his terrified face when she's, like, yelling at him after
Yeah,
she hits him.
I
So
agree.
that was pretty satisfying. I still think it's weird how quickly she kind of fell into this. I guess she doesn't really have a choice, but how quickly she fell into just being like, oh, I'm the Khaleesi, like, the great Khal Drago. Like, I mean, he's whatever, the stallion, the great stallion or whatever. And so she's gained some kind of power on one side, but then is still very subservient on the other. Weird.
So how did you feel about both her and Jorah basically agreeing that her brother should not take the Iron Throne and won't? She's definitely in a struggling place of, like, he's my brother, but also he's terrible.
I think she's kind of recognizing that he's as horrible as he is. I feel like she probably, I know she says she doesn't really want him there, but I do think she truly feels that. They keep calling him the dragon, but she's going to be the one that's clearly going to have some dragons at some point here, and so I feel like she should be the one that's in that position rather than him.
Okay. Tyler, how did you feel about Daenerys and everything that happened over there?
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree almost with everything that Alyssa said so far. I do think it's nice that she's showing some character growth in the sense that she is sticking up for herself, against Viserys, since he has become kind of ridiculous over the episode so far with how, like, just how much of a jerk he really is. So I'm hoping that continues to develop in the sense that Daenerys continues sticking up for herself, and possibly something will happen to Viserys because of the certain threats that were made against him. But yeah, it's interesting to see her evolution so far, at least in the series, where she's kind of just easily slipped into this whole leader role with the Dothraki, and she's really embracing it and getting the confidence from it, it seems. I don't know where Khal Drogo kind of just he's kind of just, like, in the background a lot. It seems kind of odd that, like, he's supposed to be like this epic character, like the stallion, as Alyssa mentioned, is what he's never really around to, like, defend her in any way. It just seems kind of odd that all these things keep happening, all these, like, discussions, arguments, whatever you want to call them, with Viserys and Daenerys, and he's just out of frame somewhere, not assisting whatsoever.
Got one
He
good
wasn't even
glimpse
in
of
this
him.
episode, was he?
Yeah, we saw him for 1 sec as they rode into
Dothrak.
Dothrak. Like, their sacred ancient city that they just arrived in, where all of this is taking place. But yes, Khal Drogo's there. We just barely saw him for, like, literally a split second.
Yeah, it's like where is he when, like, he's needed most? He should be, like, at least maybe attempting to try and, like, defend his woman in some shape or form.
Out doing call things.
Well, hopefully, I mean, maybe they'll get revenge. Maybe he'll get revenge once he's around. Maybe Viserys will slip up while Drogo's around, and something will come
Cut
from
his
it.
hands off.
I mean, it seems to be alluded to, so maybe that'll be a payoff later on. Maybe his hands will get cut off, like Star Wars style.
like jumping from the desert, basically, to a frozen tundra up at the wall. We meet Samuel Tarley as he arrives at the wall. He tells us basically the reason he came here is because his dad was like, no, you are definitely not worthy of taking over our house and getting this inheritance. So unless you go and take the black and become a man of the Night's Watch, I'm going to kill you. And make it look like an accident so that your mother doesn't get upset.
Leaves you with absolutely no other options, really, at that point.
Yeah, so it kind of clears up their questioning about him of like, why in the world did you come up here if you can't fight and do anything, really?
I did wonder that in the episode.
But John obviously feels bad for him right off the bat, and whether through intimidation or whether through just like brotherhood, gets the other guys around him to also take it easy, be nice to Sam, don't beat him up in the yard. And as Tyler mentioned, they obviously have started to gain somewhat of a friendship up at the wall.
Yay!
They're both virgins in an interesting discussion.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
That Rose, she came up like so many times in this
Ross,
episode.
yeah,
Ross.
Spoken of by John, spoken of down by Theon and Tyrion's discussion. How did you all feel about the stuff happening up at the wall and Samuel? So we'll start with you on this one.
I mean, it still feels like there's not really that much going on up at the wall. I mean, this just seems like a lot of just like messing around, just like I guess practicing for whenever there is something that hopefully comes up at the wall. Because I feel like there is inevitably going to be a confrontation. It just seems like for right now, we're kind of just getting our footing over at that area. We're training. Obviously, some of these people aren't very good at fighting, so they would probably not fare very well in a battle like Sam Tarley because he can't fight or do anything, it seems. But I do like his character so far. He's very friendly and very lovable as a character, which is not very, not a thing that you've seen so far from any character really in Game of Thrones. Like, it's very out of place with a lot of the characters we've gotten. Very like so far, as there are a lot of them are very stoic or just like jerks, outright jerks. But I actually do think he's a very charming character, and I do like that. I like his interactions with Jon Snow. I think that they're gonna their budding friendship is going to be a good storyline going forward. Something that we're gonna have maybe we'll get some lighthearted, fun humor and banter from across all the other serious things going on in the storyline.
I liked it more this episode than probably any time we've been up at the wall so far. I do think that kind of camaraderie now that John has with Sam, and then just his interactions now even with the rest of the group up there, he certainly himself, John, fits in more than he did before in the previous episode. So I do like that. Sam's an interesting character so far. He's kind of annoying to me, at least. I don't find him quite as lovable. As Tyler does, but
he's friendly.
Yeah, he's okay. I don't hate him or anything. He's not a Viserys or something, or Joffrey. He's okay, but I was just happy to finally see that albino wolf for the first time. So
it's red
the second time we
eyes.
saw it as a puppy, but.
Yeah, so as I say, we also, as we mentioned, were introduced to two of the adult versions of the dire wolves for just a moment. So we saw Ghost, which is John's albino, and we saw John did bring him. There's a confirmed proof that John brought him up to the wall, and they used him to intimidate. But we also did see, for just a fleeting second, Greywind, which is Rob's direwolf, who is sitting beside him. But before we leave the wall, how are you all feeling about Sir Alistair, who is kind of a hard-nosed leader up at the wall? He told a bit of his backstory as well, of the last winter, them getting lost and how intense the winters are above the wall, but really just, I mean, the entire north, but beyond the wall, if you will, is much harsher than the rest. So how do you all feel about Sir Alistair as of now?
He's not a very good motivational speaker.
No, I agree.
think he's gonna succeed in toughening up good old Sam there?
I think Sam's gonna die pretty soon. I think they're
it's on the
setting
way?
up like not only is he like not good at anything, but they're like giving this like, oh, Jon Snow has a friend now, but he's gonna, Sam's gonna die and Jon's gonna be like left friendless again. Like it's just
And sad, he'll be sad and brooding some more.
yeah. He'll have
How
that
even harder.
that face that he always has.
Well, in Winterfell, not too much happened. We did open the episode with Bran's dream, where he saw a raven, your ravens there, Tyler, with a third eye in his head. So, interesting symbolism. And then he is taken down to meet his brother, who is now Lord of Winterfell for the moment, and Tyrion has come up with like a nice little schematic for them on how he can ride horses again.
Yeah, blueprints. They literally had full-on blueprints to show him.
Yeah, so I mean, that was basically all we really got in the North. We learned a little bit about Theon Greyjoy and the fact that he's not a Stark, but he's been living with the Starks. He's their quote-unquote prisoner. Doesn't really seem to be a prisoner per se up there. So, yeah, not too much happening in actual Winterfell, except
was Ricker anywhere in the background?
I did not see him running around.
I'm still unconvinced that this is a real character. I think you're just like stringing us along here, Tyler. You're telling us he's real, but
so
I believe.
Like, who is taking care of him? If Rob's like, sitting at that table with his wolf there, if the guy's carrying Bran around, like, where is this little kid?
Just roaming the hillsides with his wolf. Then we head down to King's Landing, where most of the action was this episode, where most things were transpiring. As we said, Ned Stark starts poking around to see what's going on here. He gets Maester Pycelle, who is that old, like, crotchety man, gets him to give him the book that Lord Aaron was requesting before he died, see if he can find some clues there. He kind of clues Pycelle in about the poison. Doesn't really show his full cards, but kind of is like, well, I'm sure he died of natural causes, could have died of poison or and they talk about how that's a woman's weapon. Then he also learns that his last words were like, the seed runs strong, which is an interesting last word.
I'm sure it means something down the line.
Yeah, I'm sure it has something to do with his lineage.
Yeah, so obviously Pycelle kind of brushed that off as like crazy people talk when you're about to die.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Yeah, he had that interesting line about how your first word is just as like unimportant as your last word.
And then Littlefinger was making good on his promise with Ned, talking to him, kind of trying to show him the sneaky ways of King's Landing, pointing out everybody's little spies around the courtyard, before Ned went on down to meet Gendry, who he believes is Robert's bastard. So, yeah, how do you all feel about Ned and his investigation and what he was finding out as we moved along? Alyssa, we'll start with you.
I think it's kind of interesting. Like Tyler said during the reaction, he seems pretty stressed out, increasingly stressed out as these episodes proceed.
I'd say so.
So I liked his little bit of CSI investigation there. Kind of harking back to when they were looking at the tower after the incest twins killed or tried to kill Bran.
A marriage of investigators there between Catelyn and Ned.
It seems like it, yeah. They're getting down to it.
He came upon that idea that it was, all to even get to the armory or whatever, the guy making it, he kind of happened upon that pretty quick. So he seems pretty skilled in his detective work. It'll be interesting to see what he does now with this information, and what, kind of what implications that's going to have. Is the hand, right? So like he's supposed to be his, like right-hand man kind of thing. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Tyler?
Yeah, obviously, I enjoyed the detective aspect of Ned because Ned is probably one of my favorite characters, and he is. I feel bad because he's obviously very stressed out. 'Cause, like he's just getting more and more stressed. It seems each episode. I mean, we literally see him just looking so distraught at the table as he's just trying to get down to down to the nitty gritty when it comes to all this detective work kind of stuff. But I did like that aspect of the episode with and all the stuff with Gendry and all that sort of stuff. And I'm curious to see how that's going to play out in the future. How long it'll take in the series before we get back to that, whether it be next episode or later down the season or whatnot.
How did you feel about Cersei's confrontation of Ned? Kind of what she said and what she was doing in there. Tyler?
I think that they're just all. I think just like most, if not all, the Lannisters are just evil people. I think that even though I do like Tyrion a fair amount, like just because he has like such a interesting personality, I just feel like most of the Lannisters have obviously their own interests at heart, and basically it's them against everyone else, as they've said before in the past. So it doesn't surprise me that that's kind of like her thinking still.
All right, Alyssa?
I think that obviously a lot of distrust between those two characters at this point, and obviously she knows that they almost killed Bran, and I think she's kind of testing the waters to see if he knows yet. If any word got out. They're obviously both very suspicious and untrusting of each other, and it seems like this is kind of building up. Right now, it's just words, but it's going to build up to a more physical conflict between these two houses, probably in the fairly near future, especially if Bran ever gets around to remembering things.
Didn't get much with the king this episode, just kind of him sleeping with prostitutes and
being
him
a drunk.
being drunk at the jousting tournament. But that is when we saw the mountain, who is aptly named because he is humongous.
Yeah, I don't know how he's on that horse. Like that horse, I don't know how that horse supports him. He looks ridiculously huge.
But we got a little bit with Sansa. She also got a little bit of a history lesson about the people who conquered the Seven Kingdoms, as well as her lineage that was killed by the Mad King Aerys Targaryen that was there before Robert Baratheon took over. But she got quite rude in that exchange, and she's not forgiving her dad right now. She's mad at him. And then at the jousting tournament, Littlefinger terrified her.
Yeah, like a horrible story that you're going to tell somebody. Like, oh, by the way, here's this horrible story, and if they find out that you know the story, or if you tell anybody, they're going to probably just murder you that night.
That was one of our only two. That was our funnest moment with Arya too. Is her just being like, "Why did they call you Littlefinger?"
I mean, that is a very odd nickname. So.
Yeah, how did you feel about Littlefinger as he talked to Ned and then his interaction with Sansa? How are we feeling about him now after 2 episodes, Alyssa?
I still don't really have a good sense of him. When he was talking to Ned, he seemed a little more trustworthy, but why, it kind of went back to kind of just the weirdness of not being able to trust him when he's telling Sansa this story. So I don't know. I like him sort of as a character. I don't dislike him.
Interesting dynamic to the story for you right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious to see kind of where his whole thing goes to, what the purpose of him telling all this. It seems like he's obviously still he's only revealing things that are going to somehow play out in his favor. Telling Ned about, the spies and stuff. He's trying to build trust, but he's only pointing out certain things, and then telling Sansa the story. It seems like he's trying to intentionally scare her, but why, right? There's got to be some underlying purpose to that. So I still don't have a really great read on him, but I do think he's an okay character. I kind of like him.
He was the one that also told Ned about the armory where little bastard Gendry was.
Oh, yeah.
In their exchange. Tyler, how are you feeling about Littlefinger?
I still don't trust him. I think he's very devious, and I just don't trust him. He obviously has something up his sleeve that's more nefarious than he's trying to lead on. So I guess that's my short take on Littlefinger. Plus, so I don't trust him still. I don't dislike him as a character. At least he adds something interesting to the story. But like, I feel like he definitely has either his own intentions or someone else's evil intentions at heart.
Yeah, and then we go up the road for our final scene. We finally meet up with Catelyn. This is the first time we've seen her since she left King's Landing, had that discussion with Ned last week, as well as Littlefinger, who informed her that he had lost that blade that was used for the attempted murder of her son to Tyrion Lannister in a bet. So when Tyrion Lannister comes into the same little inn that she is at, she decides on pulling a power play using her old name and her connections in the north to seize Tyrion and take him back to Winterfell for justice. How did you feel about Catelyn and that power move? Spontaneous move, Tyler?
I mean, it started off kind of goofy because like Tyrion walks in and she sees that, and then she puts her hood up a little bit, maybe hoping that you won't recognize me if I just pull my hood up like an inch further. So obviously she was easily spotted. But besides that, though, I thought that was quite a I guess boss moment, if you will. I'm just gonna go off on talk to everybody in the crowd and then just out you, and then they all just seize Tyrion with the swords as the episode ends. So yeah, go her. I mean, as I said, I don't really think they needed to go that hard towards getting Tyrion, because he's a very small man, and I imagine he's not like a very skilled fighter. I don't know. Maybe we'll see next episode. He's like an epic fighter.
All right, Alyssa?
Yeah, I like that scene too. I think it's interesting how much pull she still has with these people, with her older family connections. So I like that, but I do feel bad because obviously we know that Tyrion had nothing to do with it, at least directly. I mean, who knows? Maybe he had some back thing with the incest twins to like tell them to do it, but like, we know it was the incest twins and not him. So I do feel bad for him a little bit, since he is one of he's the only Lannister that I like. But I did like how she just kind of called upon everybody, and they still had her back for her family's namesake.
Jumping off of that, we'll just go into our predictions. And one prediction particularly I'll start with. What do you think happened with this knife? So supposedly Littlefinger owned the knife and then lost it to Tyrion in gambling. And then it got into the hands of this like low guy to go and kill Brandon Stark, and then obviously now Catelyn, and Ned actually has it down there. What do you think is the significance, or what happened with this knife as a prediction?
I think it's a setup. I think that the incest twins somehow got it from Tyrion, that he was at some like brothel somewhere drunk, and they just like stole it from him.
They'll never
and
know.
then have it and gave it to this little assassin guy, and that they're trying to direct it to him, knowing that that Littlefinger would remember he was the last person that he knew who had it.
Yeah, I kind of agree, like 100%. I could see it definitely being a setup of some kind. I don't know who or what's going to be involved, but I could definitely see it be a setup. Definitely, I don't trust Littlefinger, so I know that Littlefinger probably has some sort of evil part in this plan. If there's a setup, I don't trust him.
Yeah, maybe it was never even maybe Tyrion never even got it, so it could just be Littlefinger's the one that maybe he's the one that's in charge of all of it.
So with everything that was set up here, the wall, with Daenerys, and obviously in King's Landing, what are the rest of your predictions looking like right now? Tyler?
I mean, there's so many predictions I could make. I mean, I'm hoping that Viserys gets his arms, his hands cut off. I mean, that'd be nice.
So you want him
You
to
know?
try it one more time so he gets chopped up?
Yeah. I want to see him like really. I mean, even if I don't know in this world if that would actually kill you or not if you got your hands chopped off. Just because, who knows? But I would like to see some damage done to him in some way and put him in his place, put him in line, I guess, so to speak. Whether it be Daenerys doing it or one of the Dothrakis, Khal Drogo could do something in the episode. That would be nice to see him actually contribute to the series again. But yeah, I also thought the Mountain was cool. I don't know if he's ever going to come back, or I'm sure they will, just because they introduced him and he has that connection to the Hound as his brother. But Mountain was cool. He had like the very big, epic, like gross battle scene in this episode. So we'll see. I'm sure he'll be used in some shape or form down the road. Maybe we'll use him for some sort of battle scene. Would it make sense to put him down there at the wall? Because I feel like he would be very useful down there.
The elevator
hey.
wouldn't be able to lift him, though.
That's true. I'm just thinking that would be a guy that would be really useful at a place like that. He's huge. I feel like whatever they're going up against at the wall, whenever that happens, he would have been very useful down there. But yeah, and just I'm interested to see the developments of this mystery that Ned and Kate are on so far. Hopefully Tyrion ends up okay in the long run, because it's not looking too good right now.
Have any prediction when it comes to Gendry, now that we have met him and his supposed parentage, or at least what Ned perceives to be his parentage?
Oh, if he's a bastard as well.
Yes.
Maybe him and John can become friends and bond over their bastardness.
Send him to the wall too.
Why not? And
the ball to the wall.
Send them all there. They can both fight alongside Sam whenever that happens. Hopefully Sam lives.
All right, Alyssa.
Yeah, so Sam's not going to live. I'm already telling you that. I can already tell. He's going to die very soon, I think. Who knows? Maybe he'll have some big, redemption thing. I made the comparison of him to Neville Longbottom in the middle of the reaction, so maybe he'll have, a Neville arc and become the one to kill the White Walker that comes over or whatever. But I do think Sam's going to die pretty soon, and that'll make Jon Snow more angsty. And I think the wolves are going to have a bigger part soon, I hope. At least we saw them this episode. I don't know about Daenerys. I don't know which way she's going to go in terms of if she's going to continue on this path of becoming this stronger character and stronger person. I have a feeling she's going to, but I don't know exactly what is going to occur there. Arya, we did see a little bit with Arya there.
Still training.
I had to bring her up. With her, I think it's going to be more long-term, but she's clearly going to be dismissing the traditional role of women in this world, in this family. I think she's going to try to become a fighter or whatever. Obviously the lord, the female version of a lord's a lady, but she's going to become a female lord. She's going to try to be that person rather than somebody else's property or somebody else's just wife. So that's a much longer term prediction. And I predict that people who joust are going to start wearing full helmets to protect their throats.
How do you think about Catelyn snatching Tyrion? How do you think that's going to play out, or what kind of ripple effects that may have?
I think Tyrion's going to be able to talk his way out of it eventually. He's going to have a rough time until he gets to Winterfell, I think. But I think once he's been imprisoned for however long, I think he's going to be able to talk his way out of it. And I think Bran is finally going to either remember, or finally, if he already does remember and just hasn't been telling anybody, I think he's going to at least say that it wasn't Tyrion who's, the one who went after him. I think Tyrion's going to be okay for now. I imagine something bad will happen to him at some point before the end of the show. I think something bad will happen to pretty much everybody before the end of the show.
What about you, Tyler?
Yeah, I think Tyrion could definitely talk his way out of it he seems like he has that kind of personality, and it seems like he kind of has that kind of pull where he could probably talk his way out of whatever accusations that are being thrown at him. Hopefully, just because I do think he's a very fun character, and it would be a shame if we took him out of the show, whether it be him imprisoned or being killed. Other thing I'm curious about though is now, I guess it wasn't it was only brought up in my mind when I thought of it because Viserys brought it up that the last dragons were like the size of dogs. So it's like is it potentially like possible that these dragon eggs that we've been epically waiting to hatch, they're not going to be like really giant dragons, they're just going to be like little teeny dog-sized dragons that they can't ride over the
Well, her baby will ride on these little dog dragons.
Little baby on the
There'll be a little
dragon.
toddler on the dragon.
Well, we talked a little bit about the jousting, and that brings us to our only death of the episode. But we learned of and were introduced to Sir Hugh, and then he swiftly made his exit.
Yeah, he was not very. His appearance was not long.
Yeah, so that was another clue, if you will, that Littlefinger gave to Ned, was that Sir Hugh was once the squire for Aaron, Lord Aaron, the previous hand, and he became a knight, but he refused to talk to Ned's man and said, no, the Lord has to come, the head of the king has to come talk to me himself. But as we saw before that happened, the mountain killed him. So...
Yeah, Alyssa said, he should have worn a better helmet.
I was gonna say, when you saw the two of them, I was like, well, this guy's got a full metal thing, and this guy just has like a little visor and space everywhere else.
Oh, there's one clue chip taken off of Ned's board in his ongoing investigation. But speaking of characters, Tyler, who are your top and bottoms in terms of characters right now?
Top, I mean, still probably Tyrion's up there because I do like Tyrion.
You like him just grilling everyone, just roasting people left, right, and center.
I mean, as long as he stays alive and he's just being himself, he'll always be up there. Him and Ned, I still really like Ned a lot, even though like he's obviously super stressed out and he's probably gonna have like no hair. He's
gonna be bald.
Yeah, he's just going to be pulling his hair out because of all the stress. It seems every episode he's just being more distraught. I guess, yeah, Jon Snow's okay. I wouldn't put him in my top. But, I mean, Sam's up there as well. I don't think he's that annoying.
Did Sam leapfrog Jon right off the bat? Did he just jump right over Jon in the ranking?
They're about the same. I would say, I would actually say Arya's probably up there, too. I mean, she didn't really do too much this episode, obviously. She only had, like, 2 or 3 scenes maximum, but she's still like overall throughout these episodes one of the more interesting characters to follow. As far as least favorite, I think you always got to put in Viserys because I think so far he's probably one of the worst people in the show. Incest twins are both terrible. I mean, in this, if it's going off of people in this episode, it would definitely just be Viserys. But if we're going by the rest of the episodes we've seen so far, still like the incest twins, Joffrey, and Littlefinger, because I don't trust him.
All right, Littlefinger has escalated to one of the least favorites. All right, Alyssa.
Like Tyler alluded to, she wasn't really in the episode much, but I still got to go with Arya because I do like her goals and kind of what she wants for her progression of life, I guess. But for our purposes, her progression in this story. But she didn't have that much to do here. I think Daenerys I liked a little bit more here. I wouldn't say she's like my favorite, but she jumped up again to a higher position. Ned, I kind of liked him a little bit more in this episode than I have the past few. He wasn't killing any wolves, so that was a benefit for him.
Cersei saying maybe she took it too far with the wolf, didn't gain any favor.
No, she's an incest twin. We hate her.
Evil.
I thought Catelyn was decent, except for her like poor disguises.
It was like Thor Ragnarok level, like literally.
That's what I thought of immediately.
Tyrion's still good. I still like him. There's a lot that are kind of mid-level characters for me, but really the only one that I really hated this episode is Viserys. I mean, I hate him every episode, but he had a lot of like annoying moments in this one, so I really don't like him. I don't hate Sam, but he's definitely on the lower side for me. I can't wait until he dies very soon, I imagine. One can only hope. You know, we only got like one half scene of Joffrey looking, but I hate that little jerk. So
the way he was looking so
like,
angrily at
he
Sansa.
just like had one One moment he was like in a fraction of a second on
Looked
screen.
disgusted by Sansa seeing her down there. You know, I think Joffrey's face just does that. You don't have to have much moments. You just got to see his face, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
what a little brat.
Oh, and the of course the incest twins I already referenced.
So that goes without saying. The incest twins.
Robert Baratheon is quite an interesting character, you know.
Enough there.
Do you still like him, Tyler? You found him quite jolly in the beginning of the show.
I would say my opinion has slowly been turning to dislike as the episodes
You did
have gone on.
chuckle as he yelled at them to get it going.
Because I think he's just absurd. He was jolly, and then as the episodes went on, he's kind of shown his hand as being a terrible person, and a rude, drunken.
He's not like a fun drunk like Tyrion either.
Unruly king.
I also don't think I've mentioned it because he hasn't had a very big part. We have met one of Robert Baratheon's brothers as well. I don't even think they've said his last name, or maybe very slightly in passing. His name is Renly Baratheon. He's like the smaller, dark-haired guy on the council. Who kind of, I think, sits like right next to Ned. So when they're at that table.
Oh yeah.
That's Robert's littlest brother. So
nice.
We've seen another dark-haired Baratheon rather than just like Joffrey, who's running around here as a little blonde Baratheon.
It's just like how like there's like a bajillion Lannisters around. There's just like other Baratheons hanging out.
They're around. They're just not quite as involved as these Lannisters. All right. Well, that was episode 4, Cripples, Bastards, and Broken Things. Thank you all so much for watching with us. I'm going to go ahead and let my co-hosts here tell you where you can follow and find them across the internet, starting with Alyssa.
You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all those places at Mainely Movies.
All right, Tyler?
You can find me on YouTube at Tyler Calvert and Twitter and Instagram at It's Tyler Calvert.
Perfect. And if you are enjoying these reactions, please make sure that you are subscribed so that you never miss an episode. And of course, so you are always up to date on my latest videos. Make sure to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And thank you so much for watching. Can't wait to see you next time. Bye.